Broadcasting to South Yorkshire and North Derbyshire.
This is BBC Radio Sheffield.
Good morning, it's Toby at breakfast. It's BBC Radio Sheffield. And I know I said no more trees.
Yeah, no.
Well, it's moved on today, and
There may be some more trees.
there may be a bit of trees. Although I think it might be moving on from trees more to governance. I don't know what you think. 01142796699 is our phone number if you'd like to get in touch today. Or you can text us on 81333. Start your text with the word Sheffield. The reason we're talking about it is that something's come up. Right? Well, first things first. 3 MPs now have come out and said they should halt the tree felling. The Labour MPs, Louise Hay and Paul Blomfield, and then Jared O'Mara. I said Jared O'Mara. He's now added his voice to the campaign. And tonight, some of the biggest names in music in Sheffield are coming together to raise funds for the Sheffield Tree Action Group. This is the group which is campaigning to stop the replacement at work on roadside trees. Get Off Our Tree is going to see the heavily pregnant brothers, Morning Brothers, take to the stage at City Hall with DJs Jarvis Cocker, Richard Hawley, John McClure and Nick Banks. Somebody who may well not be there tonight, I'm not sure, is Councillor Brian Lodge, the Cabinet member who's in charge of the Streets Ahead programme. He was, however, in the studio here earlier this week, and he said that lots of people around the city do want the work carrying out.
I am getting letters, I am getting emails, I am getting phone calls from people that are telling me that the work needs to be done on their streets, that they want the work done. There are 550,000 people, roughly, in Sheffield, and we're seeing 100 people out on the streets protesting around this. We've seen by-elections across the city. We saw a by-election in Nether Edge, which is the real hotbed of this campaign, and it returned a Labour councillor. Last year, in the midst of all this that's going on, it returned a Labour councillor. So I know from what people are telling me. I was at work yesterday, and some of my colleagues at work are saying, God, we're just sick of this. Just get on with it. Tell them just get on with it and do it.
So just get on with it, says Brian Lodge. Well, I'm joined in the studio now by the co-chair of STAG, Chris Rust. Chris, good morning.
Hi, Toby.
Obviously, you heard Brian Lodge on the show earlier on in this week. What did you make to what he had to say?
Well, it's the same old, same old. They're still in their bunker. They still aren't really admitting they've made a horrible mistake over this. And I'm afraid more evidence and more stories are going to come out. And it's going to look worse and worse.
I have to say, it's not that they're not admitting a mistake. They don't think they've made any mistakes. They've got
quite so.
The weight of justice behind them, as far as they can see.
Absolutely. And if you go back to before the contract was signed, there's lots of things happened that were just, when you look hard at them, just absurd. They said they were going to chop down half the trees. Now they're saying it's a third of the trees. Oh, thank you very much. You know, the fact is they chopped down 6,000 trees, a huge proportion are healthy and not doing much harm at all. And I do sympathise with the people who say, well, there's trees causing problems where I live. Some of those problems may be real, but that isn't the majority of trees we're concerned about.
But people will say that, and I have to say, you know, it was fairly light-hearted the other day, although I realise that nothing is light-hearted in the world of Twitter, when I said I didn't want to talk about trees again. Yeah. But to a degree, I don't, because the traffic I get in when I speak about trees is from the people who are protesters. I get lots of kind of, messages, but multiple messages. I have to tell you, and I've told you before, from the rest of the audience, a lot of people say, what are we moaning about here? There are other things to look at, and this is taking up too much time and money.
Well, I'd agree it's taking up far too much time and money. But I'd also point out that the council were warned. They were told before the contract started by lots of people that this was going to happen, that there are far too many people in the city who will feel passionate about this, and that was just brushed aside. It was just brushed aside. There are people who don't get it. That's their privilege. but it's a huge number of people who can see why those trees are important, not just to them personally, but to the whole community. And come back in 10 years, I bet you'll find far fewer people will not understand why those trees are important. It's always the way, isn't it? That things change, things move along. It takes a while for society to catch up.
Let's talk about tonight, this fundraising concert. Ironically, in a council-owned venue, which I think is quite interesting.
It's always ironic. Well, they own the whole place, don't they?
Yeah, so at least you've given them some money for their fighting fund as well. But what does STAG need funds for?
Mainly for legal stuff. The council have been really punitive. So there's two guys at the moment, Calvin and Alistair, who did their best to hug a tree and save a tree, got hauled into court, and they didn't just get a slap on the wrist or a fine, they actually got suspended prison sentences, but also they were hammered with deliberately pumped up legal costs imposed by the council. The council employed a fleet of highly paid barristers just to put those prices up, just so that those guys are being hammered for £27,000.
Well, you say that, the council would say this is what we had to do to get a conviction.
Well, I don't think so. One of the guys actually put his hand up and said, in fact, both of them put their hands up and said, I did it. And yet they still had to wheel a Queen's Counsel into court just to run up the fees.
And QCs aren't cheap, are they?
QCs are horribly expensive. Yeah, we've had to pay for one or two. And they're horribly expensive.
So, talk to me about tonight. What's happening?
Well, there's going to be an amazing set by the Everly Pregnant Brothers, who are just astonishing. And I think everyone in Sheffield these days knows who they are. But we're also getting DJ sets from Jarvis Cocker, from Richard Hawley, from John McClure and Nick Banks. Really important people in the music business who've always been with us. And Nick Hawley said, I'm going to put something together. He got these other guys up and running. It was sold out within about a day. Astonishing.
So where are we now then? That's going to happen tonight. It starts about 9:30, 10 o'clock, does it?
Yeah, I think so. Half past 9.
That's going to happen tonight. Where do you think the campaign is now? Paul Blomfield, Louise Haigh, Jared O, what's his name? They've all come out and said that they want the thing to pause. How do you feel now?
Yeah, well, I think Louise Haigh is the one that's making the most sense, and she is the deputy, the shadow police minister, of course, and she could see straight away when she actually came down to Mearsbrook Park Road and saw what was going on. She could see the whole thing was out of control and unsustainable, and she's really worried about public budgets and police budgets. I think that pressure's going to build.
The sustainability is the thing. I saw it yesterday. And
yeah.
Huge costs yesterday.
Huge.
But I have to put it back to you, Chris. The cost wouldn't be there if people weren't attempting to break the law.
Well, actually, nobody broke the law. Somebody did get arrested for obstructing the highway, but the majority of people that were there were just standing in a front garden saying, "Go away."
But people were getting arrested, and if
one person was arrested, I believe. A lot of people have been arrested, Toby. So far, no charges have been brought. This is the really amazing thing. It feels like they're hauling people off just to get them out of the way.
Chris Rust from STAG, thank you very much indeed. That's Chris Rust. We're going to be speaking to, hopefully, although you know what these rock stars are like, Jarvis and John McClure very shortly. Is it more than trees now? I mean, it really isn't. The 3 MPs have been involved. Louise Haigh, Paul Blomfield, Jared O. Thingy. They're saying that all the felling should stop whilst they talk about it. Paul Blomfield, though, quite measured. He did say, and this is there is a big contract involved, and to get out of it would cost Sheffield a fortune. Now, everybody who's read that, including all the lawyers, say that's the case. And I know that there'll be some people who go, well, they don't have to do that, because I saw them driving down Kenwood Park Avenue and one of them got a back light out, and that means that the whole contract's void. And it just doesn't. The reason people who write these contracts have got big houses that you and I will never live in is because they write quite tight contracts. Now, that contract is there, it's in place. I'm not sure. Some of the ire that's directed at the council, I have to say, we know that Julie Dore has tried to get out of the contract. I'm not sure that all of the ire that's directed at the council is actually necessary, but that's up to you. You do what you want.